Kalimera σε όλους. Good morning, everyone. The webinar will be delivered in English. So, for all those that you haven't met me, I am Marinos Portokalidis. I am a scientific officer, working for the Director General's office dealing with issues relating with innovation programs. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all in this webinar about the new EUROSTARS-3 program and the subsequent national call for proposals announced by the RIF. I would like to thank our invited speakers, Mrs. Camilla Dell'Atte, Program Officer at the Eureka Secretariat in Brussels, and Dr. Panagiotis Philimis, which is a former member of the evaluation committee of the EUROSTARS program. As many of you may already know, there are two major types of funding schemes for research and innovation. We have the European programs and the national funding programs. In the European programs, the European Commission announces calls for proposals and follows a central evaluation procedure, and the projects are funded directly by the Commission. And usually, organizations from different countries form an international consortium in order to implement their projects. In the national programs, usually local consortia submit proposals to their respective funding agencies in their countries to receive funding. So the EUROSTARS program is kind of a hybrid program. It's a European partnership where we have a central program, but with decentralized funding. So it's a European program, but each organization is funded by its respective national funding organization. So this model is that we will try to explain in the next 2 hours. So Camila we will start and we'll explain the general conditions for participation in the EUROSTARS program, the eligibility criteria, and the submission and evaluation procedures. Dr. Philimis will then share his experiences as an evaluator and will provide you with some useful tips for success. And finally, I will present the national funding rules which apply for the Cypriot organizations wishing to participate in this program. During the webinar, you may submit your questions in the Q&A session, and we will respond to the questions after each session. So the webinar will be recorded, and we will share the video and the slides through our website. So without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Camilla and start with her presentation. Thank you very much. Camilla?
Yes, good morning, everybody. I'm going to share my screen. I hope you can see my presentation. Full screen. Yes, here we are. Thank you, Marinos, very much for the invitation. This gives me the opportunity to present Eurostar from, let's say, the centralized perspective. Yes, so my name is Camilla Dell'Atte, and I'm the Eurostar team leader. So before going into the details of the first call, I just want to give you a bit of an overview of what Eurostar is. Eurostar is funding programs that want to support mainly SME, but not only, to innovate. So with this program, we want to foster international cooperation and collaboration. This means that to apply, you need a consortium and not single beneficiaries are accepted. We also have a bottom-up approach. This means that enterprises can innovate in any sector and it's not up to us to define where the innovation should be. And another element that is really important, and we will see it also in the evaluation mirrored, is that the process, product, or service you are developing needs to be close to market. So we want something that can be commercialized in a short time. In this map, you see the Eurostar country. So we have 37 Eurostar countries. This year, Singapore joined the network, and so now you can partner up also with enterprises from Singapore. Now we have mainly the European country, but as you can see, we also have as Eurostar country Canada, South Korea, South Africa, and indeed Singapore. Remember the concept of Eurostar countries, because we will use it later when I'm going to talk about the eligibility criteria. Who can access funding? So as I said, the program target mainly SME and startup, but we see also large company, university, research organization participating in the program. As Marino said earlier, the funding is at national level, so it's based on national rules. So it's really important that you check with a national project coordinator which activity are eligible for funding, which type of organization, and the funding rate. Here, just to briefly explain a distinction between organization based in Eurostar country, where public funding is available. So for Cyprus, we know for the first call there is funding available, and organizations that are not based on Eurostar countries. They can participate in the project, but they must self-fund their activities. It's also important to remember that the Eurostar funding normally does not cover all the project costs, but you also need to you must be able to self-fund part of the cost of your project. Now, talking about the eligibility criteria, these are very important because we perform an eligibility check immediately after the submission, and if your proposal doesn't comply with all the eligibility criteria, you will not progress on. So it's really important that you check the eligibility criteria and that you are sure you comply with all of them. Here I mentioned some, but I would advise you to go on our website and check the eligibility guidelines because clearly they have also more details and they have all the eligibility criteria. But let's start with the first one. So the first one is that the consortium leader is an innovative SME. That's a difference compared with Eurostar 2, where we were looking for R&D performing SME. So in Eurostar 3, we decided to broaden our target group. You're probably asking yourself, what does it mean, innovative SME? So the SME definition is coming from the EU regulation. So to be an SME, you need to comply with the EU definition of an SME. And to be innovative, we consider innovative every SME that has the ambition to innovate with a project. So we broaden up the target group. The second eligibility criteria is that the consortium needs to be composed by at least 2 entities coming from the Eurostar countries, with at least one organization coming from the European Union or an Horizon associated country. What does it mean this in easier words? So a consortium, Cyprus, Italy, is clearly eligible because Cyprus is a Eurostar country, Italy is a Eurostar country, and so and both of them are coming from the European Union. A consortium, for example, composed by Cyprus and Singapore is also eligible because both the countries are Eurostar country and Cyprus is coming from the EU. What is not eligible, for example, is a consortium with Cyprus organization and an organization coming from China, for example. In this case, we don't have the 2 Eurostar country, and so the consortium will be ineligible. It might sound complicated, but it's very well explained with several examples in our guidelines, so please take a look. We also have some eligibility criteria that concern the balance of the consortium, that for us is very important. The first one is that the budget of the SME coming from the participant country is 50% or more of the total budget, but it excluding subcontracting. This is the same as in EUROSTAR-2. While the second one, where we stated that no single participant or country is responsible for more than 70% of the budget of the project, has slightly changed compared to EUROSTAR-2. Before, the percentage was 75%. So please, when you build up your budget in the proposal, be careful that not single participant, but also not single country has more than 70% of the budget. What does it mean? No single country. It means, for example, if there are two organizations coming from Cyprus, the budget of the two organizations will be added. And if this is higher than 70% of the total budget, the project will be declared ineligible. So again, pay attention when you build up the budget. And then another eligibility criteria that is quite straightforward is that the project duration is 36 months or less. We also maintain the eligibility criteria on the civil purpose. So Eurostar funds only projects that have a civilian application. Yeah, so be careful also on that. Now, very quickly about the evaluation process that is centralized. We have two-step evaluation process with the technical expert and then the independent expert panel. And this, during both these steps, the assessment criteria used by the expert to assess your proposal are exactly the same. So the first one is quality and efficiency of the implementation. This is mainly about the consortium, so the quality of the consortium. And we have a criteria about the excellence that will look more into the technical aspect of the innovation. And then another criteria is impact that will look at if your project will be successful in the market and the commercialization plan. So this is the timeline for the first call. So we opened the submission platform on the 2nd of September. You had 2 months now, clearly less, till the deadline that is on the 4th November at 2 p.m. Brussels time. Please don't submit last second, but take a bit of time to be able to review and to be able also to have a bit of a gap in case there is any technical problem or so on. Another thing that is new compared to EUROSTAR-2 is the submission platform. So we have a new platform that is collaborative. That means that all partners can and must complete the application form. The new platform warns you directly in the platform if any mandatory field is incomplete. And the project partner cannot see the confidential information, and you will be able to check the eligibility also in the platform. Now I'm going to go more into details with some screenshot of the platform. So this is the landing page where you can sign in if you already have an account, but you can also create an account clicking on need help signing in or creating an account. How the flow works. So to be able to create an account, first you need to search for a call, that in this case is going to be the first call of EUROSTAR-3. And then you can start a new application and clicking this button, you will be asked to register. What is important to remember is that the main partner needs to register first. And as we said, according to eligibility criteria, the main partner needs to be an innovative SME. So basically, it's important that it's the innovative SME that is going to be the main partner of your consortium that register first. After that, the main partner will be able to invite the other partner organization into the application form. So how? Basically clicking in application team. This slide show you just like let's say the overview of the application form. And the main partner can click in application team. And you will see at the bottom of the page, after the information of his own company, he will have a double possibility. On one side, clicking add person to microbiotics is a fake enterprise. The main partner will be able to invite other people from his own organization to join the application. So that means that more than one person can work for the same organization on the same application form. And doing that, he needs to insert full name, email, and then an invitation email will be sent. But he can also add a partner organization. So inviting a partner in the application form, the main will have to insert the organization name, full name, and the email. And again, an email will be sent, and this new organization will be able to register. Now, I said at the beginning that the platform is collaborative. What does it mean? It means that several people and several organizations can work simultaneously on the application form. And the main partner has the role to assign the question that by default initially are assigned to the main partner to the other organization. How can you do it? Clicking in assign to you, and then there will be a page with like the name of the people that are already being invited to the call, and they can assign this. And the person that will be assigned will see a notification in the PMP, in the project management platform. Now, if I click on one question, for example, in this case, I click on impact result of the project, I see that I have space where to insert my answer. I have a brief description of the question, and I also have in the blue link, what should I include in this question? Please open it up, read it, because there are some guidelines on how to answer to this question in more details. And always remember to keep an eye on the words counting that you will find at the bottom. Now, as I said at the beginning, you will be able to check the eligibility of your proposal. So you see here there are listed all the eligibility criteria, and of course, if is eligible, it means that it's okay. If it's, there is a red cross with ineligible, it means that that criteria is not fulfilled, and then you need to take an action, basically. This is also new compared to Eurostar 2. So we have a section that is called declaration, where the organization will have, each organization will have to provide the following documents. So all organizations will have to provide a commitment and signature form. You will be able to download a template and to fill in the template. And the SMEs in the consortium will have to provide also an SME declaration. Again, you will be able to download a template and to upload the template. These documents are confidential, so only your organization will be able to see the document from your organization. But I also want to underline something else, and this is that this document will be checked, and is required that somebody with the legal power to sign this document. So it's really important that you don't do this the last day or last minutes before the submission, because again, these are mandatory fields. So if you don't provide this document, you will not be able to submit. Another section in the platform is the work package section. So the main partner needs to create the work packages, but he can assign the form, so that the information that needs to be provided for each work package to another partner, and it works as for previous question. You can add as many work packages as you want. You can also remove one in case you made a mistake. There is also a section that is called your project finances. where basically each organization needs to insert the project cost for its own organization for the project. And as you can see from the second screenshot, it's divided by work package. So basically, it's essential that the main partner start to create the work package, and then the other organization will be able to fill in the cost. Till the main partner doesn't create the work package, you will not be able to insert any cost because the cost table is divided per work package. Also, in your project finances, you will see a link called your financial information. This information is confidential, it's visible only for your organization, and we ask you to fill in some financial information. In this screenshot is an overview of the application questions. So you see all of them are complete except for one. In this case is 9 excellent technical risk. And because this question is incomplete, the system will prevent you from submitting. So it's really, really important that you complete all the section, and that clearly you allow yourself enough time to do that before submitting. And again, just a small reminder, the submission deadline is on the 4th November at 2 p.m. Central European time. The system will ask you a couple of times if you want to submit. If you're sure, go ahead. Remember that once you submit the application, you are not allowed to change anything. So be careful before submit, ensure that that is your final proposal. Once the application has been submitted, the main partner will receive a notification via email, but all partners will be able to see the submitted application and to print if necessary. How? So this is a view that all partners have. So once you log in, you will have on top a dashboard, and if you click on it, you will see the application. You will see both the submitted application, but also the application you are involved and maybe you are still working on. And by clicking on the link, then you will be able to see the application and print it as PDF. The application form has slightly changed. We have 5 sections. We have a section, project details, that is basically provides a summary of your project. So it's about the consortium, the purpose, the revenues generated. Then there is the core section, let's say, that is called application, where we have questions that you need to answer that are, let's say, divided into, they mirror a bit the evaluation criteria. So we have impact, excellence, quality, and efficiency, and ethics. What is new in this section is that in the impact, we ask you also how your project relate to the Sustainable Development Goals and which is the impact on them. And in the excellence, we also ask you to include a gender dimension of your project proposal. We also have another section that is called your organization, that is a partner-specific session. So this section must need complete by each project partner, while the application section is up to the main to decide if he wants to fill it all or assign different section to other organization. Another section is declaration, but we spoke about it before. So you will see the SME declaration, the commitment signature form. And then we have the work package session where the main partner can create work package, assign them to the partners, and you need to provide information about the work packages. You also have the possibility to upload a Gantt chart and or a technical annex if relevant. Remember that it can be only one file per the entire, so there is one Gantt chart per proposal and one technical access annex per proposal. So it's not per partner. So please merge the document into one PDF. This is just an overview of the evaluation process and results. So as I said at the beginning, after submission, we immediately perform the eligibility check, and only proposals that are declared eligible will process to the first step evaluation. where we have a remote evaluation done by technical remote expert. And at the same time, the national funding agency, so at national level, they will perform the legal and financial viability check on your organization. They're going to check on one side the financial viability of your organization towards the project, but also they're going to check like some legal document has, for example, the commitment and signature form and the SME declaration. To pass to the next step is really essential that the proposal pass both steps, so both the remote evaluation and the legal and financial viability check. Is one organization of your consortium doesn't pass the legal and financial viability check, this will result in the entire proposal not proceeding to the next step. But let's say everything goes well. So then your proposal will go to the second step evaluation, where we have the independent evaluation panel that will create a ranking list. And we also have an ethics review. The ethics review does not really prevent the project to obtain funding, but is just to ensure that your project complies with the European ethical regulation that are in place. So, for example, the regulation about GDPR, experiments on animals, dual use, and so on. After this second step evaluation is completed, we will go to the funding synchronization, and you will receive the funding results. For the first call, we foreseen the funding result the first half of February 2022. So this is it on my side, but I see that there are some questions, so let me open. So the first question, can we allocate 70% of the total budget to a partner organization, not the main partner, host organization? Yes, you can. I mean, from the eligibility perspective, yes, you can. Be careful then in terms of the assessment that the budget is balanced at that all partners contribute to the project. Second question, what is the TRL of the project request suggested, and does this depend on the business model? For example, for a B2C model, the market is, for a B2B model, the market is TRL is 7. So I'm speaking, I don't know if at national level, Marinos, you have like limitation for the TRLs?
We do not impose a specific limitation, but it's expected that projects fall within TRLs 3 to 6.
Yeah.
And we fund industrial research and experimental development activities.
Yeah, and is exactly the same at international level. We don't specify, we actually don't use the TRL as, let's say, a hard criteria, but indeed we expect project between TRL 3, 4 to 6, 7. So yeah. Let
me add that we are trying, as a national funding agency, we are trying to avoid overlaps between our programs. And for this reason, we have other funding schemes for more mature TRLs from 6 onwards. So with this program, we focus on industrial research and experimental development. And we also focus at international cooperation.
Okay, then I go to the next. Where can we download the financial information template? To whom do we send it in Cyprus?
I will refer to my presentation on this issue, so we'll discuss it later. Regarding the next question, we had some internal reorganization, so we asked the Eureka Secretariat to update the contact information uploaded in the website. I will check afterwards if this information is updated, but you can contact us through the central support email, which is mentioned in the National Call for Proposals. You may also contact me in person if you want.
Okay. So then there is a question. Greece does not allocate funding within this call, even though it's a Eurostar country. Can Greece SME participate with their funding? Yes, but you will need to self-fund. Is there a maximum threshold for subcontracting? What is the maximum amount? So I don't know if there is a national level, but at our level, there is no. Of course, you need to be careful because the subcontracting will be deducted from the 50% of the budget that needs to be allocated to the SME. And bear in mind that experts check if the subcontracting is reasonable or if you are subcontracting, let's say, the core activities of the proposal. I don't know, Marino, if you want to add something for national.
Actually, I will refer to the funding rules in my presentation, and this in this call we will apply a new funding model using a simplified cost option, which covers personnel costs plus other expenses up to 40% on the personnel cost. So it's a new simplified cost option to be used by our national applicants. You have to do this allocation of expenses in the EUROSTARS application as described by Camila. But however, in the national proposal, you will have to follow this new model.
Okay, then we have another question. Can an SME participate or lead two projects either at the same time or within the 36-month window? So
actually, we have a national limitation on this since our budget is limited for the next funding period. We will allow each enterprise to receive funding from the RIF for a maximum of 2 projects during the EUROSTARS-3 period from 2021 to 2027.
Okay, what is the criteria for an SME to be characterized as an innovative SME? So the innovative SME is, first of all, you will find a nice, well-written definition on the guidelines, but basically innovative is just that you need to demonstrate in the proposal, basically, that you have the ambition to innovate. So we don't have any more R&D, FTs count on stuff like this. This is for the international, let's call it, eligibility criteria. I don't know if Marino has something to add on that.
No.
Okay, good.
Regarding the last question about the overheads, as I mentioned, we use a different calculation, cost calculation. So please wait, I will explain it in my presentation later. So do we have any other questions, or we can move to the next presentation? I think we're okay. Thank you, Camila, for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
As mentioned, there are 2 evaluation stages in EUROSTARS. So we have a distant evaluation by independent experts at the first stage, and at the second stage, the proposals that are qualified as eligible from the first stage are evaluated, are being evaluated and ranked by an independent evaluation panel. So Dr. Filimis is a former member of this evaluation panel, and you know, his experiences and tips could be really invaluable for applicants. So Dr. Filimis, we are looking forward for your tips, and I will give you the floor for to share your experience.
Thank you, Marino, for the invitation. Definitely this level, it's not very well known to all what at this stage the independent panel actually is evaluating. But basically, we are just looking to the main criteria. But before going into a little bit on the tips on the different criteria, I will just say a few words about, I think it's a very important call for Cypriot SMEs to participate. Because it gives the opportunity to collaborate with other European stakeholders. They have the opportunity, because these are small projects, and that means that it's manageable, and it can involve obviously research organization, SMEs, and other large companies. And obviously, especially if it's a coordinated and is, let's say, technology that comes from a Cypriot SME, it's quite important because you can find partners to work on their innovation. And there are really very, very good participations from around Europe, from the different countries. So I would really suggest Cypriot SMEs to really be engaged and collaborate with obviously local, but also the European partners. Now, as far as the evaluation, I will concentrate on certain things which I believe are quite important, and usually, at least at the level of the IEP, we look at really very important. And I will start from the excellence. I think you all know that innovation and degree of innovation, because it's an requirement, is very important, especially for any evaluation, not only Eurostars, but in general, I find it very, very important. So it's really important to give evidence and support your statement, whether your innovation is of a very high degree. It's a breakthrough technology. It's, it's going beyond the state of the art. And this is really important because if you really have such a technology, you can support it, of course, by giving evidence of the intellectual property situation, whether you have a patent or by when you compare with other technologies or other type of, let's say, more a little bit on the science part of it, and supporting with papers and so on. You have to show whether that goes beyond the state of the art. And if we're talking about the market trend, whether it's a breakthrough, but still, even if it's, let's say, it's an integration of technologies, you have to state why, even if it's, let's say, it's not a technology that is a breakthrough, but still an integrated, let's say, product that uses different technologies. Your product actually, if it's actually, it's gonna be a breakthrough in the market, either because it's a low price, still try to support as much as possible your statements. Now, of course, you have to convince by saying a little bit about the new knowledge that would be created, and also the technical challenges. As the bigger the challenges are, the bigger the more difficult, more innovative this product is. So it's good to mention a few things about the challenges, and also your technical approach. How you're gonna approach this and develop this technology, because we are talking about TRL levels from TRL 3 going to TRL 6. As I've heard, so you are still at the stage where you are developing things. So you have to be convincing on your approach, on your technical approach, and of course, supporting also from the consortium, the people working on it, and so on. Definitely, it's important to mention the risk. Do not forget to write a number of risks and how you're gonna mitigate them, and trying to clearly define them and be convincing on this. As far as I've mentioned, actually the IP, which I find it quite important. Obviously, some of the SMEs may not have yet submitted a patent, and maybe through the project, it's important to say that you're going to submit a patent. But of course, there are products and technologies, for example, software that may be trade secret, but still try to mention something and be convincing, because this is a product that will go in the market, and definitely one of the aspects of how competitive it's going to be. So depending on the product, IP may be very important to mention. Now, I'll move on further a little bit more to the impact, which is the second most important, let's say, section, in my opinion, which has to do with the market also. I think one of the most important things is try to describe and give evidence about the market size. This is quite important because in the world of, especially of investments, you always look of how big is this market, and whether it's a niche market and so on. From that, basically, you will be able to identify when you are building your business plan, you are the focus of the region. You're gonna focus, make your competitor analysis. But it's important to start with the size, and try to be precise on that, or with giving references. And then the markets that you're gonna attack. What is the size of those markets? What is the addressable market? And also, doing the business plan. Of course, you will tell a little bit in the future how can be the revenues on that. Competitor analysis and market analysis is important. Of course, it's something that maybe if you are consortium or the SME or partners have knowledge and they are in the market, it's important to speak with them and get information. So try to provide details of your competition, and try to describe a little bit more details of when you want to the point to describe what is the share of the market that you're gonna acquire. Give a little bit this information, maybe support it with a partner that maybe is already have a strong presence. So try to give all the evidence that you do have a state-of-the-art technology, a breakthrough technology, but you have the partners there to help you in order, because you are in the stages you can understand on TRL 3 and 6. So having a knowledge of the market, it defines also sounds very important in certain products, very important when you are developing the specifications. So depending on which markets you're going to enter, the specifications are changing. Even if you are building prototypes and so on, still it's very important, because if you know from the beginning, you have a better definitions of your specification that comes actually from the knowledge from the market, what really the market needs. It's really very important. You have to mention a little bit about your market entry strategies and your competitive advantage. Of course, it's really very important. Trying to give as much as possible information there. Also on the commercialization plan, try to also give how is your business model, for example. Is it going to be B2C? It's going to be B2B. Again, it's very important to have knowledge, beyond your own market. Cyprus is very small, so it's good to have some feedback from either partners or other collaborators you may have in order to propose a good business model for your product. And of course, try to be as much as possible clear on your strategy, and trying to be realistic. So these are some aspects with regards to the market and commercialization, which are very important, I believe. And now going a little bit on the last part, which is the quality and the implementation and the partnership. As Camila mentioned, I think it's very important that you have a well-balanced consortium that actually answers a lot of the things as far as your innovation and your market access and knowledge. Definitely it must not be a very big consortium, because that would be a problem, but try to be balanced. And because you may, as an SME, you may already have access to international markets. You may already have a good R&D team. So try to fill the gaps in order to have a balanced consortium and answer, your consortium should answer, let's say, the questions to the criteria. So are you able to really develop and move further your TRL level, and you have the right team? If you do not have the full R&D team to support you, then you include definitely collaborators for research institutes or universities, which are very, very important, which may also help you to enhance your technology and so on. So another aspect also is the of course is the market access. So yes, definitely there are consortiums that may not have a huge market access, so they don't have a partner that is really in the whole all the markets. But try to as much as possible to have a well-balanced consortium. I think also it has to do also with the type of the product. So depending on the type of the product, you may also build a nice consortium around it. And also the TRL level. So if it's, for example, a medical technology, it's not easy within a Eurostar project to move a lot of TRLs, because some of the technologies, you are deep tech, they move much slower. So you may move 2 TRLs. So you may end up on the TRL 5. So it's really important to match this consortium also to your TRL level. There may be technologies, or let's say within that for the project, to be able to move much higher TRLs. Again, you try to balance your consortium to fit on the work you are actually describing. Now, it's also very important to clearly say a little bit also about the synergies, because you may have also good synergies. So if you're making a product that is, let's say, for example, have a software and a hardware, and you are a software company, and then you can include a hardware SME that you can collaborate together, as an example. But similarly, if there is also universities R&D of how you bring on the different, let's say, knowledges together, in order to, to bring the technological, let's say, level of the consortium at a very high level. Okay, as far as the rest of the aspects, which is, the management and so on, definitely you have to provide the different information within the work package. Try not to be very lengthy or very short. So try to be convincing that and precise of what you are trying to do. So try to describe everything properly, including your milestones, your deliverables. Try not to forget those, and include, let's say, as much as possible, a well structure, which is important for a project like that. So yeah, so I mean, in generally, it's very important. I will say, as Camila mentioned, that you are looking for SMEs to lead this project and take these, let's say, innovations into the market. It's very important, I believe, because it involves obviously the aspect of the commercialization, the business plan, and everything. You must have in your consortium, let's say, access to the end users, get feedback, and so on. It's quite important, because you may have an SME, for example, that makes a specific software that attacks a market, but it may have to find another partner that has that market. So you may be expert as an SME to make that AI software, but that software may have, let's say, 2-3 applications, industries. It's good to have to bring in partners within that industry, because it will help you build properly the commercialization and business plan. In general, I will say my last tips, trying whatever you are claiming to be convincing, and giving them as much as more clearly, and giving the details which are necessary, and fully justify what you are trying to say. And whenever necessary, you have to be realistic. For example, something that I didn't mention, it was sometimes we see somebody says that as soon as I finish the Eurostar project, I'm gonna go in the market. If you can't support this, okay, but try to be realistic. So maybe it's 1 year or 6 months or 1.5 years or 2 years. Still, whatever you claim, trying to be realistic, and this is very important. That's all from my side. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I will try to answer them. Marino, I cannot hear you.
Sorry. Thank you, Dr. Filimis, for your useful insights. We have received 2 questions, but I think I will respond to them after my presentation or during my presentation. Do any of you have any relevant or specific questions for Dr. Filimis? So, thank you, Dr. Filimis, and we will move to the next presentation. If you have any questions, please post it on, upload them and post them on the Q&A. So can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Thank you very much. So as I mentioned before, I will present the national rules for and conditions for participation. We mentioned it many times today that this program is a joint centralized program with centralized procedures. However, the funding is decentralized and it's coming from the national funding agencies. So for this reason, the RIF, the Research and Innovation Foundation, as the national funding organization for Cyprus, issues this, announces this EUROSTAR Cyprus program and regular calls per year for this program. So EUROSTAR Cyprus program is the national funding scheme for the support of local organizations to participate in these EUROSTARS projects. The budget for this funding period between 2021 and 2027 is 2 million euros, and we are expecting to fund around 10 projects. So the EUROSTAR Cyprus program was originally launched in 2008 and covered EUROSTARS 1 and EUROSTARS 2 programs. And since then, we have selected for funding 23 projects with Cypriot participation. And statistically, this means that we are funding one project per cutoff date. So as you realize, this is a very competitive program. So I suggest to follow the tips as provided by Dr. Filimis and to read thoroughly the guidelines of the program. So for the EUROSTARS cutoff dates, we have 2 cutoff dates per year. And for this reason, the RIF launches calls for proposals to cover each cutoff date. So the present call aims to cover the first cutoff date of the EUROSTARS program with a budget of 500,000. It was announced on the 16th of September 2021. And the deadlines are for November for the submission of the proposal of the central proposal to the Eureka Secretariat, and on 5th November for the submission of the local proposal to the RIF. So as you will see later, Cypriot organizations will also need to submit a short proposal to the RIF as well, further to the central proposal to be submitted centrally in the Eureka Secretariat. So the funding per project is 200,000 euros for the Cypriot partners. As mentioned before, one of the partners of the international consortium undertakes the role of the project leader. So in the case when the project leader is an organization from Cyprus, then the national funding from the RIF can raise up to 250,000 euros. So each country follows its own funding rules and procedures. And you may notice when discussing it with your partners that other countries have different maximum funding per projects for their participants and different funding intensities. So the funding intensity for the Cypriot participants, this is the percentage of funding relating to the total cost of the Cypriot participants is 70% for enterprises and 100% for research organizations that will participate in a EUROSTARS project. These refer only to the Cypriot organizations. So what are the national conditions and the national funding rules of the Cypriot consortium? So provided that all eligibility criteria of the international consortium, as described before by Camilla, are met, national organizations, local organizations should follow our local and national rules. So for the Cypriot participants, for the Cypriot consortium, the host organization should be a small or a medium enterprise. You can see the definitions in the Restart Programs web program, which is uploaded in our website and our IRIS portal. So other organizations, such as research organizations, other enterprises, such as large enterprises, or other private and public organizations, can participate as partner organizations in the Cypriot consortium. The maximum number of organizations in the Cypriot consortium should be between 1 and 3. There is not a restriction regarding the composition of the international consortium, but for the Cypriot participants, this number should be limited to 3 organizations from Cyprus. It is useful here to mention that a typical EUROSTARS project at international level has 4 participants from 3 different countries and a total budget of 1.4 million euros. This is a useful statistic in order to be able to, see the scale of the EUROSTARS projects. So we had a question before about the startups and the submission of the business plan. So in this new call, this requirement does not apply anymore. So participation of startups is not allowed in this call unless a startup has marketable products and services and a record of sales and turnover and has audited financial statements for at least 2 years. So I will refer later in the financial documents that need to be submitted nationally. As I mentioned before, we are trying to avoid overlaps between our programs. So in the forthcoming months, we will launch some new calls for startups, similar to the calls that we launched before. That is why this program is focused mainly on the international cooperation and to enterprises that have innovations and products and services that are close to the market and need further development. So another restriction is that, as I mentioned, we have only 2 million euros for this program, and we expect to fund only 10 projects during the duration of the program. So we have imposed this restriction that each enterprise can receive funding from the RIF for a maximum of 2 projects in the frame of EUROSTARS-3 program. As mentioned before, the calculation of the proposal budget that will be submitted to the RIF will be based on the new simplified cost method, which is personnel cost plus 40% on the personnel cost to cover the rest of the project cost. As I mentioned, you will have to do the allocation of funding of cost between the different categories in the EUROSTARS proposal. However, in the RIF proposal, you have to take into account that you will have to follow this simplified cost method. As I mentioned, further to the central proposals that will be submitted to the Eureka Secretariat, the coordinator of the Cypriot Consortium, which comes from the host organization of the Cypriot Consortium, should submit a proposal to the RIF through the RIF's IRIS portal following the same procedure as other national funding schemes. So for this reason, the project coordinator and all local participating organizations should register in advance on IRIS. In the Eureka Secretariat, you will have to submit a detailed proposal. In the RIF, you have to submit a short proposal, a concise proposal, which includes only general information regarding the transnational proposal and the partners, and a brief description of the project and the detailed budget for each partner participating in the Cypriot Consortium. So the proposal parts for the national proposal are this part A that will be submitted online in fields through IRIS, and the host organization, the small and medium or medium SME that will submit the proposal for the Cypriot Consortium, should submit audited financial statements for the previous financial year or the year preceding it. These statements will be examined during the legal and financial viability check to be take place after the submission of the proposals. And from this obligation, organizations that have already signed a contract with the RIF and have undergone this financial viability check by the RIF and still have valid financial viability check results are exempted. So if you haven't undergone this check in the last 2 years, that means that the host organization only, which signs the contract with the RIF and is legally binded with the RIF, should submit financial statements. So as I mentioned, and as Camilla mentioned before, the evaluation procedure is performed centrally, and the national funding agencies support the Eureka Secretariat for the eligibility and the legal and financial viability check. So the funding decision is taken centrally by all the participating countries in the project based on the results of the evaluation and the available budget. As mentioned, during the second stage, after the international expert panel evaluation, a ranking list is formed, and countries are invited to declare which of these proposals from their country that are included in the ranking list are able to fund until the exhaustion of their available budget. So after this exercise, a certain amount of proposals which are in the ranking list are selected for funding. From the latest EUROSTAR statistics, the vast majority of the countries have enough budget to cover all of their proposals that are included in the ranking list. So I cannot say at this moment that you should avoid, let's say, partnering with specific organizations from specific countries. Most of the countries are doing their best in order to fund all of the proposals that are included in the ranking list. But of course, if we have the case that we have a proposal that has not ensured funding from all countries, then these organizations from these countries can declare this self-funding, can sign this self-funding declaration and proceed with own funding in order to proceed with the project. So the funding decision for the present call, as mentioned, will be around mid-February 2022, and successful Cypriot organizations will be invited by the RIF to the negotiation stage. So as I mentioned before, you should read thoroughly the guides and the working documents. These are the national call for proposals, which is uploaded on our IRIS portal. Regarding the registration and the submission of proposal through IRIS, you can go through the IRIS guidelines. And you should also read the transnational call in order to be sure that you meet all the eligibility criteria and general conditions. And of course, the eligibility guidelines and guidelines for applicants will provide useful information regarding the evaluation, the submission procedure, and so on. So I received a question earlier about identification of partnering organizations. So as a national funding organization for research and innovation, the RIF also tries to provide supporting services to research intensive and innovative companies. Within this framework, we participate in this global network called the Enterprise Europe Network, which is the world's largest support network for SMEs with international ambitions. And this network has more than 3,000 local experts, and it's located in more than 600 locations in more than 60 countries. So it provides a broad range of services for growth-oriented SMEs, either to explore international partnerships or to receive support for international growth and support for business innovations. Today, I will focus on these services that aim to support the internationalization of SMEs, and more specifically to help them identify partners from abroad for business cooperation or participation in international funding schemes such as the EUROSTARS-3 program. So the Enterprise Europe Network manages Europe's largest online database of business opportunities. So if you go through the links that are provided in the presentation, you can search the database based on specific criteria that you can set and identify opportunities for partnering, either, as I mentioned, business or technology transfer, or to identify R&D partners. You can register in this database in order to express your interest on profiles and to receive personalized email alerts based on your own search criteria. In the case that you identify a partner, you can express your interest, and we, the national agencies, will facilitate the matching procedure. So the profiles are anonymous, and the matching procedures is done through the national EEN centers. You can also create your own R&D profile. You can create an R&D offer where you can describe your technology and innovation and try to identify partners that are interested in cooperating with you, or you can create an R&D request in order to identify specific participants from abroad. This profile can be developed by you with the support of our team. It can be uploaded in the EN database and attract its own expression of interest from partners from abroad. So this is my presentation. Let me see if we have any questions. So the first question is about the way to add figures or tables on the online application. Camila, could you respond to this, please?
Yes, so unfortunately, no, it's not possible to add figures or table into the, let's say, text box that there are under the question. So I would suggest you, or you can, like, it's not ideal, but use bullet points. This is allowed, or otherwise, if you really need to put figures and table, put it in the technical annex.
So the next question is about the leading SME. So as we mentioned, the international consortium has a leader, an SME, and this is only one organization. So each project has one leader. This can be, this organization can come from Cyprus or from every other Eurostars country. In the case of the Cypriot consortium, we have a host organization which, as I mentioned, is legally binded with the RIF. This can be also the international leader or not. So regarding the specific conditions for participation, yes, you understand correctly that startups can only participate if they have audited financial statements. As I mentioned before, we have other specific programs for startups. So any other questions, please? Camila, can you respond to the last question regarding the Word PDF template for the application?
So on the website, there is a template for the application. It's a Word file, so you can also start working on it. Of course, then you will have to copy paste the information in the platform. Yes, and there are definitely the word limits and the instruction. We also have another guidelines. This time is a PDF where you have really like detailed guidelines on what you need to specify in each question. So I would recommend to use, I mean, if you don't want to register, or maybe you're not the main partner, so you need to wait for the main partner to register, you can already start looking at these two documents that are available on our website. I maybe can share the website in the chat.
So in the financial model, is there indirect cost? Camila, could you respond regarding the cost types in the evaluation form? I think you've shared before.
Yes, we don't call them an indirect cost. We have overheads, and then there are travels, like cost related to travels, cost related to material, cost related to subcontracting. Now I cannot remember the other, but we do not use the terminology indirect cost.
And as I mentioned, for the national funding, we use this new cost calculation method. So your cost, as described in the central proposal, should also be compatible with our calculation cost, which is 40% of other costs on the personnel cost. So the next cutoff date will be in 2022. We'll have two cutoff dates. Usually the cutoff dates are on March and October.
Yes, so this year we start a bit later. So we have November 2021. And for the second call of EUROSTAR-3, we are looking at, let's say, end of March 2022. But I mean, as soon as the cutoff date for the second call will be approved, it will be published on the website. But indicative is March 2022.
And the RIF will launch 2 new calls for proposals with a budget of $500,000 each to cover these next cutoff dates in 2022. So if we do not have any questions, I would like to wrap up. As I mentioned, you have to go through and study these guidelines and national working documents. I send you a list with the documents in the chat section. So go through the transnational call, go through the national call, go through the guidelines, especially the submission guidelines for the central submission in the Eureka Secretariat. I have also provided our contact details in the chat. So contact us at the RIF support service. You can see there the telephone number and the email. And please ask your partners to contact their respective funding organizations. It is very important before submitting a proposal that each organization knows what are his or her national funding rules. So these are all from me. I don't know if our speakers have any last comments or
Not on my side, just thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Marino. Just one note you mentioned before about the technical annex, just to mention, because it's a personal, let's say, opinion. Depending sometimes when, because it's only text allowed, sometimes it's really very difficult to understand the technical innovation of certain products. So I would really strongly suggest to include in the technical annex some figures or some information, which especially figures to show your technology. Of course, it does not apply to all, but sometimes I did struggle to understand from just the text what is really the innovation. So try to show images if unnecessary. An image sometimes it tells you a lot of things. And also other information that are important you are not able to include. Including that annex. It's really important. It helps a lot for the evaluators to take a look at images and tables. Visually, you can understand it's more easy for an evaluator to judge certain things.
Thank you very much, Panagiotis. Thank you very much, Camilla. Thank you everyone for your participation. Please do not hesitate to contact us, and I wish you a good day and every success in your proposals. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.